On this episode, we'll discuss using visual media to craft more engaging worship services. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast, the show that is dedicated to inspiring leaders and empowering healthy churches. We do that through conversations, interviews, and stories, all as we explore what's happening in ministry today and how pastors and leaders can navigate what lies ahead. I'm Kendall Connor, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jessica Moore. Hey there, Jess. How are you?
Hi, Kendall. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well over on this end too. We got an exciting episode today, but before we jump into it, I wanted to kind of ask you, we're going to be talking about the subject of some church media and some visuals today. And I wanted to ask you, I was trying to think back today of when I remember church media kind of becoming a thing. And I was thinking, do you remember way back in the day when churches would have transparencies? Do you remember that?
Yeah, like the worship lyrics were on transparencies and someone would stand up there and like slide them up
manually
as the and then push them back down.
Yeah. I was like, and I remember that was just like normal. Of course, I can remember hymn books and reading and singing from those. But I remember the transparencies. And then I remember when our church first got a projector. It was a big deal, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then it accelerated very quickly after that. We got the slide, like the PowerPoint presentation slides. Yeah. And now look where we are. Now it's like,
look where we are now. Well, today I'm pretty excited. We are going to talk about the subject of visuals and church media and things like that. But I'm also excited because we get to talk to a good friend of mine, someone that I've worked closely to for a number of years. For any listener who may not know this, I spent nearly a decade my career was focused on church media, working. I led our team and worked with our team over at Church Motion Graphics. And one of the main people that I got to work with closely was someone by the name of Jaime Montano. And he, these days, is the brains and creative talent behind literally thousands of worship backgrounds that are being used in thousands, probably tens of thousands of churches all over the world. It's pretty amazing. If you've never had an opportunity to connect with Jaime before, let me give you his official bio. He is the senior motion graphics designer at Ministry Brands, where Jess and I are on the team. But that includes both Amplify Media and CMG, Church Motion Graphics. And he's coming with over 15 years of experience in motion design, which is pretty incredible. He joined the CMG team back in 2019. And like I said, he has been contributing to the visual worship experience of churches literally across the globe. And he works primarily with worship backgrounds. If you can think, okay, so it's not the transparencies, as I said, Jess, but he works with those moving backgrounds a lot that go behind worship lyrics and are part of so many church services these days. His work has been featured and are used in churches all over the world, from small town congregations all the way to some of the largest church stages in the world. He's an incredible guy. And in this episode, we're going to get to talk about some practical ways that churches can help their worship services be more engaging. That's pretty important, wouldn't you say, Jess?
Absolutely. Yeah. A little while ago, we did an episode similar to this about graphics in general and the emotional kind of response behind them. But worship is definitely next level. So digging into this, I think, is going to be really interesting.
It's going to be really good. And I think it's not so much about adding flash, but really using visual media, with some intentionality. And so for everyone who's listening today, if you're a pastor, if you're a media volunteer, worship leader, and you're just trying to create a more meaningful, distraction-free environment for your people, just to encounter God, to get closer to God, I'd say this episode is for you. And so I'm excited to dive in. Before we do that, I always want to encourage our listeners to hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button wherever you're enjoying our show. We want to make sure that you stay in the loop as we continue to release these conversations. And, because we're always trying to provide valuable resources to you. And that's the best way to make sure that you don't miss a thing. So without further ado, let's jump in. Let's welcome our guest. Hey there, Jaime. How are you?
Hey. Hi, everyone. And nice to be here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
Doing
man,
great.
it's great. It's great to see you. I feel like we talk to each other a lot these days over Microsoft Teams and the video chats, but this kind of levels it up a little bit, don't you think?
Yeah, it's definitely a fun experience doing something so fun like a podcast. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. And so I want to ask you something. So we read a kind of a public bio, but something that we
Yes.
always like to ask folks that come on the podcast. What's something about you that doesn't make that public bio, but all of your family and friends would know about you?
It's something funny, but I rarely reject a snack when I am overwhelmed. Either a cookie or a chip, I'm always say yes. I can help it.
I respect that so much.
That is an awesome answer to this, but that just leads me to ask, like, okay, but what are your favorites? We've got to know.
Oh, cookies, Oreos. I swear I
Yeah.
could devour entire boxes of Oreos.
Do you have to have
if there's
milk?
someone who's listening,
do you have to have milk with your Oreos?
Sometimes I do, but I can grab them dry. Like,
okay,
I just
yeah.
And I don't like so many cookies and cream stuff, but Oreos just hit the right spot.
Yeah. They're great.
If there's anyone who's listening to this that doesn't love an Oreo, honestly, I'm questioning your faith, and at least in this.
Absolutely.
I'm joking, of course, but come on, Oreos. That's everyone's favorite, I think. Well, tell us a little bit about your story. You know, how'd you get started in motion graphics? I don't even know that I've heard this story from you as long as I've known you.
Yeah, I started playing with After Effects in a summer internship in a local TV station. They were like, it was almost 20 years ago, but they were doing the weather graphics where you needed to, manually arrange the number and the suns and the clouds for the different regions, where you're just punching in the number of the temperature in After Effects. So that was my first approach to little motion graphics. And it was like, I was very used to Photoshop and the non-motion side of design, but that was an amazing experience. So I started to, try to unravel the thread and dig deeper and deeper. But yeah, that was my first approach, doing weather graphics.
That's so fun.
I mean, I'm kind of impressed. I'm not going to lie to you. I had no idea of that as a part of your story. And that's pretty cool. We talked a little bit about the church media side, right? Like, what does it feel like to create these motions, to create these graphics that are being used in churches all over the world? How does that make you feel?
Well, first of all, it's humbling, right? It's a humbling experience because even if I am thinking of the technical aspects of the color and the composition and the flow and all those cool stuff, there is always a worshipful element and a spiritual element to the work that I do. That I'm really thinking all the time, and it's humbling and it's fantastic to help so many people in a non-direct way, because I don't know many of the users. Like I know less than 1% of the users of this stuff, but it's fantastic. It's a great experience.
That's awesome. So what we talked about kind of a little bit how you got here, but what do you think makes these visual media pieces so important and engaging within a worship service? Like you could still have worship without it, but what about these graphics takes it to the next level?
Well, in a worship service, you have like your band, right, or your musicians, or even a choir, or even just one guy with a guitar. But like those lyrics, if those words that you are declaring to God are praising Him and are worshiping Him, you are trying to amplify the experience, like to to make people connect on a deeper level with the lyrics, to make them focus and engage on what they are singing, because it's like you are helping them, right? Like you are even, for example, I play the keyboard on my church, and we as a band, we are told constantly that you're not doing a concert or performing something artsy, or obviously no one is a rock star there. You're trying to bring the whole congregation to another level. So, your stage is doing that, is helping that experience. Be it the lighting, the screen, the graphics, you're choosing the right media, the right videos, the right color of the light. The whole ambience should try to bring the people to a different place. So it's part of that experience for the people.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think about you can worship anywhere, right? Like it doesn't have to be a particular environment. However, every environment that we go into that is intentional, when you go into a school, it is designed to be the best place for you to learn. When you go into a store, whatever they're trying to get your attention focused on, they are experts at making that environment, drive you towards that purpose. You could apply that to anywhere, right? So it just makes sense that if you are trying to be intentional, creating an environment for worship, for people to come and to focus on Jesus, right? That you would take intentional steps to make that room more conducive for that type of activity, right?
Absolutely.
And so like if you can use visuals to point people to Jesus and to set the atmosphere, set the tone, set the mood in that moment, it seems like an easy win to me.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd even take that a little bit different direction. I could be way off base, but as I'm like listening to both of you talk about this, we also need to just acknowledge the fact that we live in a culture that is very screen driven, right?
Sure.
Like we look at screens all day, every day. And so, and with that, our attention span has gotten shorter, sadly. But I think too, there's a lot to say about the fact that, Jaime, you said drawing them in and keeping them engaged. And I think there's a literal, I think there's a way that actually keeps them engaged, not only spiritually, but visually and mentally as well. Like be present, be here. I know with me,
speaking the language of today, kind of.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said about that. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be part of it, right? We should be able to just go to church and stay fully focused on worship for, 30 minutes or so. But I know just like in my brain, and my pastor calls us out all the time. Like, you're probably thinking about lunch right now, but come back to me, come back, because that's the reality is our brain is constantly thinking about the next thing. And so I think there is probably value in that regard too, to these visual graphics. I don't know if you guys have done, I don't believe you've done any research on that, but I'd be curious to know, like a church that has visual graphics like this, what impact does it have beyond keeping them spiritually engaged, but also visually and mentally engaged?
Yeah, I think maybe there is not official research done, but if you interview probably 10, 20 pastors and you ask them, do you regret investing? Do you regret doing this? Would you go back to a place where you didn't have this technology, these tools of worship? I would guess that 99% of the time they would say, I don't regret it. I am fully convinced that this is a better way to do it. So
very cool.
You could do your own research.
Well, I mean, even thinking back, it's been a part of it's been a part of my church experience really since I got into the faith. I mean, like I said, it was very early on in my church journey when we went from the transparencies to having that projector. But it was something that caught my eye and got me involved in church very early on. And so have been incredibly thankful to be able to use media and to get involved with that. It's a big part of my testimony, getting involved in church media. It's kind of what kept me involved as a young person. So I want to jump a little bit. Churches, these days, we talked about it a little bit. The progression has been kind of intense. We've gone from a simple little projector, or these days churches may have all the way up to LED walls. Some churches have these huge LED walls. Other ones have projectors. Others have TVs. No matter what kind of screen is being used, what would you say are some of the best practices or things to consider depending on, what kind of setup you've got at your church. Multiple screens, single screen. What have you seen, Jaime?
Well, I seen it all. I seen very, old projectors trying to do something in a well lit space, which is a real challenge. And I seen massive LED walls. So the best practice would be, first off, be real and honest about what you really have inside your space, because sometimes we obviously our optimism gets the best of ourselves, and we can make this do. And be honest, be real. Like, God doesn't going to punish you if your projector is not up to date, super up to date or super modern. Like be honest and try to test different things in your space. If you have like a projector where you say like, okay, this is not the best projector, there are some colors, some types of graphics. For example, graphics with lots of finer detail are probably going to get lost in an old projector. And on the contrary, if you have, for example, if you recently install or get a new LED wall and it's super big and super bright, which is fantastic, but maybe you were using too crazy motions or too much stuff inside your projector, and you were not mindful about the consequences because it's just a tiny little bit of light back in the room,
right?
And then you just got your new LED wall, and the movements and the experience needs to be a little bit different, because people can get dizzy, and especially if you just throw in random stuff on your screens. So yeah, be mindful about what you have. Test different things, and don't go 100% bright on your new LED wall. That's super important.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a friend. They just installed a brand new screen, a new LED screen on the back of their stage. It's massive. I forget what size he told me it was, but it's huge. And I asked him, I was like, "What percentage are you running it at in terms of brightness?" And he said, "We run it at 10%," and that just blew my mind.
Wow.
I just couldn't believe that it's so bright. And I love the idea of when it does come to using that LED technology, it almost is like you have to treat it like a light source in the room. It adds brightness. It's almost like a part of your stage design, so to speak. Whereas, you contrast that with a projector, which can easily get lost if you have really bright lights, if you've got a lot of windows in your auditorium or your sanctuary. And it's so there's challenges that come no matter what kind of environment it is. I think about, we have a projector. We use projectors in our space, but our lights are more dim, and that helps with the projectors, right? So there's definitely different challenges, pros and cons that come with each kind of screen. Let me ask you about this. So you talk about worship services. What is the best place for church leaders to start when it comes to kind of incorporating media? If we've got someone who's listening to this today and maybe they're not doing a lot with media in their worship services, what's a good place to start?
Well, a good place to start would be on the lyrics, because right now almost no churches are using actual paper for the lyrics, so they're using some sort of projector or TVs or whatever. So that's a good place to start. And you can even start with still media. If you're afraid of using motion media right away, you could start with still backgrounds behind your lyrics.
Yes.
And move up to slow motion backgrounds, and then you can move up to probably a countdown before your service. There's no official progression, and you could go all in. But if you're still testing the waters, there are actually a lot of churches that are still, like, they have been using still media for many years, and they have not jumped to motion because they are like, this is not worthy. People are going to get dizzy. So I would say if you're using still media, you can make the jump. Try to make the jump. There are a lot of options out there for moving media that is subtle and won't get people distracted. about the lyrics or the message.
It's so interesting. Oh, sorry,
go ahead,
Kendall.
Jess.
Okay.
No,
it's
go
so
ahead.
interesting that you keep mentioning people getting dizzy, because I hadn't even considered that people might be getting dizzy, but that's so true. And I get motion sickness. So when we go to like a theme park with my kids and my family, I can't do any of the VR rides. Like, I'm just out on those. But you're right. Like, if you're in a sanctuary or somewhere where there's a huge LED screen and there is a lot of motion, I'll probably have to leave. That's a really good point. So, but to your point, there's all sorts. I mean, there's a full range of motion graphics that you can engage with. You can do the slow motion ones. I mean, Kendall, when we did the recording for the Healthy Church Summit, the graphic that we had behind us was a motion graphic on an LED wall, but it was very subtle. I mean, it was really well done. So I think that, I think anyone that's hesitant to start, just know that you don't have to go full throttle into like a VR experience in your worship service. You can just kind of scale your way up.
Well, you want it to be tasteful, right? And there's no one kind of media or one background or one look or speed or any of these things that are that will work in every single worship environment. You have to choose what's going to work for your specific church context. And I mean, you can speak to this some, but I know that when you're creating content, you're making different speeds to go, because there's certain moments. I think, for example, when we were speaking on stage at that event, Jess, for the Healthy Church Summit, we were intentional because we wanted the attention in that moment as we were speaking to be on us. We wanted the motion behind us to be really subtle.
Yeah.
But there's other times when you're trying to bring energy, right, that you'd want more motion. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Jaime?
Leaning back on the previous question of it, is about being mindful of what you're trying to achieve with your screen, with your projection. It's about the energy, it's about the moment, it's about what works for your community. Like, for example, if we try to create a wider range of stuff, of motions, there are some stuff that when look at a regular PC monitor or a smaller TV screen, it looks like it's not moving, right? Look, you really need to squeeze and squint and try to find where the motion is. But when blew up in a 30-40 feet screen, you see all kinds of details moving. So you need to be mindful about what you're trying to achieve in your projection. As Kendall said, in a moment of worship, in a moment of praise, you want some level of motion, of energy. Even there are moments where you would, for example, you're projecting some waves, emotions and stuff. And if the worship comes to a very peaceful and quiet moment, you could just get rid of all of that and just project black, full black, and let the lighting do the talking. And then you could get back to emotion and, after a couple of bars of the song or whatever, or you could, when people is speaking on stage, the rule of thumb is having almost no motion at all. Like, if you have something moving, it could get distracted. But for example, if you have a very energetic speaker that moves across the stage and that has a different energy, and there are those kind of speakers who jump in and out of the podium and do all sort of stuff. You could, the idea is to match what's on the screen to what's happening in the rest of the room, trying to match the energy, the speed, the tempo, the vibe. Always try to, if you're creating a team of people for your church, and you're sourcing a technical director, a lighting director, a guy doing the presentation software, try for them to connect and work in tandem, because when the guy running the lights knows what the guy running the screen is doing, or they plan the service together, or they plan the stuff together, magic happens in a sense. Like, not true magic, but in a sense where
it's powerful.
It's powerful. It hits different when a service is planned and you have you'd have this visuals and the lighting and the band all working together.
Yeah.
That's where you getting back to the beginning, where you take the people to a different place of worship.
I think so too. Before we kind of move forward, and I got some questions on some different media items. I just want to ask you: are there any other practical tips that you would give to anyone who's out there and they're choosing the kind of graphics or worship backgrounds that they're putting up on their screens? Any other practical tips?
Well, again, be mindful of your community. Be mindful of your space, even of the season. Like, for example, if we are in summer, you could try, something fresh, like literally oceans, water, cascades, all that good stuff. If you're entering the cozy season, you can try to switch up your graphics. So be mindful of the time of the year, of the season, of the energy of your church. Do it with intention will be the ultimate tip. Like, if you're browsing a big library of visuals and you find something cool, like, you can use it, but do it with intention. Be mindful of the use of the media.
That's a good one. Kendall, before you ask another question, I just have to ask Jaime a question that's not on our list at all. Jaime, do you coordinate a lot of this at your own church?
Funny that you asked that, because I speak with the all of them are younger than me, so I gave some training on ProPresenter and on the media stuff, but I let them run their course, because I wouldn't want to be that guy, I am the expert, do as I say. So I just, if in a service I notice something wonky or something out of place, I talk to them afterwards. But I try to let them be.
Okay, that was my thing. I was like, I bet it drives you crazy. Or if you go visit another church, like, because here's the thing, I'll just incriminate myself. Worship is by far my favorite part of church. Like, I love music like a crazy person. So it's very important to me. But because it is so important to me, I also get very easily distracted. If something like sounds off, or I'm not as distracted about visuals because I usually have my eyes closed. But when it comes to the music part, if something sounds off to me, or, that is so distracting to me. So I would imagine that you going into a church, I don't know, maybe you don't get distracted by it, but I'd be like, oh, they're not doing it right. I feel like it'd be really hard to be fully present and not put on that hat.
It helps that I'm playing the keyboard, because that puts me on focus, hyper focus mode. So yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
That's a great question, and I got to tell you, I'm that guy. I'm the one that gets caught up in what visuals are being used, and so I can't imagine. Jaime, if you're seeing the ones that you actually created up on a screen, that's got to be another level. But I'm with you. I've tried to pass on that to other people in our church, right? Volunteers and folks that are serving back there. But every now and then I have to go back there and give a little bit of suggestion. This new pack just came out. It'd be a great look for Easter, or be a great look for this weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm guilty of that. Let me ask you this. So we talked a lot about emotions, and I love that. But there's other areas that media and visuals can be a big help in a worship experience. And I wanted to ask you, I know that you have some involvement too on the announcement and the sermon side. Would you say that it's valuable to add visuals in those parts of the gathering as well?
Absolutely. 100%. So, okay, figure this. You already have the technology. You have the setup. You have the screens. You have the space. So if there's something that you can project or to help reinforce the message that is being spoken, or what's happening inside the congregation, it helps. Like, for example, if you really want to go all in on media for your screens, you could have some announcement before the service, some stuff that remind people of events, or turn off your phones, or put them on silence, whatever. You could have like a some pre-roll stuff. You could have like a countdown timer just before the service starts. We have, for example, we have in our church, we have announcements, we have some welcome stuff. So you're trying to use the technology as much as possible because you already have it and it's a great resource. And we have seen people, like, it happens with all sorts of people, but generally older people, where when we project some information about our events or some scripture that is relevant, they go with their, I don't know why, but they go with their phones and they took some pictures. Yeah, take pictures of the screen. So because
Jaime,
that helps them.
It does help them. It's also so they don't forget. I am that old person where I feel like something comes on the screen. I'm like, oh gosh, it's going to go away. I have to take a picture. So I remember it.
That's hilarious.
We send all the stuff via social media, but they love to take those pictures.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I get it.
I think it is helpful being able to see the visual. 9 times out of 10, you come to one of our services at our church, I'm up there giving some kind of announcement in some form. Mm-hmm. And I always say, like, if we're giving any announcement, I want the visual support of whatever I'm talking about up on that screen.
Yeah.
So like if there's info, if there's a date, if there's an event or whatever, have it on the screen to give that support with it so that it's not just my words that they're going to remember. They're going to see that visual, or, as you said, they might take the picture, but it goes a long way. I say the same thing with scripture. Like if you're reading a scripture, like, and you're preaching your message or maybe in the middle of your worship, put it up on the screen. Having that visual goes a long way. And I think you may be surprised at just how much of a difference it makes for people.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, like we talked about, you've got some volunteers at your church that help with this. Does media, does it help to keep people engaged? What are some ways that incorporating media in your worship services can help to keep people more engaged?
Well, incorporating media keeps all of the people getting engaged, like the staff, the actual people that goes into church, because as you were saying, it reinforces the message, right? Mm-hmm. It creates a visual cue of what's happening, because we are living a very visual society. So you could have like a great speaker, like those commanding presences on stage, but you're not trying to add to the message. You're trying to reinforce. So it's like you're not trying to add something. You're not trying to say something else of what's being spoken or what's being sung or whatever. You're trying to reinforce. So that it's like there is a volume where music or a speech can go. You cannot turn all the knobs up to 11. But with visuals, you can, right? So that's a good analogy. You can make what's happening on the music or on a sermon or an announcement and turn up to 11 with visuals, with media, and that keeps people focused.
Wow.
Yeah, I need that.
Go ahead, Jess.
I need that too when moving into kind of the sermon portion. I take notes to help me remember stuff, and I feel like just having like the big ideas. You don't have to put every single thing on your slide or on your visual, but just to have the big ideas, the bullets, just to keep your sermon moving along. It's super helpful for me as a note taker. I'm not taking a picture of that when I'm writing it down with pen and paper, but it definitely keeps me engaged in a literal way that I know where we're going. A lot of times, my pastor will start with like, here's the 3 big ideas, and then we'll dive in and those visuals will change. Same thing with the scripture. I think there's something super powerful about hearing it and seeing it, to help your brain process it in a different way. So we do the scripture and then the big ideas. It's not distracting. It's not like every word that he's saying is coming through, but it's just enough to keep me focused and engaged all the way through the sermon, and things click better that way too. Yeah.
Yeah. And something that I forgot to mention is that for the staff, it's funny because at least in our church, the staff loves to use new graphics for the announcements. So even we have we have a regular person doing the announcements, and it was a big deal like a month ago or so, where she was on vacation, and the person that will be doing the announcements would use new graphics. So she wrote to me and she was like, how about I'm not going to use new graphics for the first time? So it's a big deal in some churches for the staff to use new stuff. And if you leave your announcement or your graphics for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, it starts to get stale. So it's always a good idea to keep things fresh, and that keeps our volunteers. They love it when we say, hey, here's a new set of graphics for our regular announcements. They just love, because it brings a new energy, or something that can become a bit repetitive. It makes it fresh.
Yeah.
You make a good point with this, and I want to hit on it a little bit more before we move forward. If we're talking about the benefits, what are the benefits of adding media to your screens, of having those visuals in worship? And you said one of them, it keeps things fresh. Are there any other?
Yes.
What would you say are the benefits of having visuals on your screens in your worship services?
Well, the main benefit is engagement. It keeps people engaged. Obviously, it keeps another main benefit is that if you have projectors, LED walls, whatever, it helps with keeping your stage fresh and updated, because moving stage design is trying people and rigging and all that stuff it's expensive, and you cannot be doing it every couple of weeks. But with graphics, with media, you can update your stage design as often as you want. So that's another big one.
It's true.
And also it helps because we have this idea that it's only for Sunday, but it helps along the week too. Because if you are, for example, you have this cool sermon series graphic that you use, you can use those same graphics to create assets for the rest of the week, and people remember that the slide graphic that the pastor used had a lion, and you're receiving something similar in your socials along the week. So keeps engagement all week long. So that's a big one.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
great
huge.
Reminder.
What would you say? We ask this to everyone who comes on the show. What is one essential component, in your opinion, of a healthy church? We talk about healthy churches a lot. We've got leaders who are listening to this today. What would you say is one essential component of a healthy church?
Trying to, not sound like a broken record, but again, the volunteers, keeping your volunteers engaged and care for them. And for example, sometimes the media booth is like those technical guys over there doing their thing, but we try to. I usually go with them every Sunday, and I pray with them before praying with the band, because I say to them, what you do is also worshiping God, and it's also important. It's part. So caring for your volunteers, people that donate their time and do their work, when you're caring for your team, for me that's a sign that your church is healthy.
That's a good one.
So good. And it's a good reminder to, for any leader who's listening, to just share that little bit of extra love, that extra care to those who are making all of this stuff happen. It goes a really long way just to show that appreciation.
Yeah, your behind the scenes people don't always get it, right? So that's a team that it plays such a critical role. I mean, if somebody was missing, not everybody can fill in with some of those roles. So I think that's right. A great reminder.
That's awesome. Well, Jess, do you want to take us through our final five? Jaime, are you up for going through a rapid fire round of questions as we end things today?
Okay.
Absolutely. Bring on the heat.
The only rule is you have to be honest. You can't lie because something is embarrassing. Okay. What's one book on this subject or similar that you'd recommend to our church leaders?
Well, I would recommend the Worship Media Handbook. You can find that on churchmotiongraphic.com.
I'm so glad that you said that one. That's a great one.
I mean, it used to be, funny thing, it used to be a paid one, but now it's free. So, hey, go grab it.
Okay, so what was it? Worship Media Handbook?
Yeah, the Worship Media Handbook.
Okay, cool. Kendall, were you going to say something?
That's an awesome download. Come on, that's a must-have if our folks listening today have not checked that one out. That's a good one.
Okay. What is the last thing you've listened to either on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you stream music?
Right now, it's just baby music. Christmas, lullabies. All sorts of lullabies, songs.
Because you have a new baby. Yes. You have a baby. That's why we should probably mention that, because we haven't mentioned that on the podcast. So Jaime doesn't just love lullabies. He has a baby.
Yes.
That makes sense. They're like, okay, yeah, I guess that's the secret to creating great motions. You got to have lullabies playing.
I love it. Okay. What is your favorite piece of technology or software?
It will be Photoshop. Like the OG software to not only creating stuff, but actual image manipulation inside a computer. It was a seminal moment for the stuff that for creativity around the world. That's
awesome. That's a good one.
Come on, shout out to that generative fill. Come on, for all my Photoshop users, they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about with that. But
yeah,
I'm a big Photoshop user myself, so. So we're just speaking gibberish to you right now, Jess.
That's okay. You guys know what you're talking about.
The ones who know that. If you know, you know. Generative fill.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what quote or advice has stuck with you over the years?
It's not a quote per se, but my mom has always said, do things right, so you only have to do them once. Right? So it's like, and I try to, there are two ways to do things: doing them to completion or doing them right. So I try to do them right. My wife gives me fire because I'm cooking. I'm trying to, do you want a slice of avocado on your sandwich? And she's tired for having the baby. We need to have the right sandwich. Come on, it's our dinner.
Yeah, I love it.
So
all the moms and dads said amen when you just said that. Like, yes, just do it right the first time. Okay. One thing that you would like to communicate to our audience of church leaders.
By staying on subject, just if you're not considering media for your space at the moment, please do, and be mindful about it. And we have a team of experts that can give you all sorts of advice, but the main idea is try to it will be engaging for your community, and it will really take things to another level. As I said before, there's only so much you can do with volume and with your audio system,
right?
But with visuals, you can amplify and turn up the volume without actually turning it on.
Very good.
Such a good word. No, that's great. I got to add one more final rapid fire question you weren't prepared for, but I've just got to know, for everyone who's listening, as a person who's creating these thousands of worship backgrounds, what is your favorite color or style when it comes to picking out a background for a church? We've got to know. One. This is
I love glitchy stuff. When
bring the energy, right? Yeah, that's
absolutely. Cool. And especially with the new technology with LED screens, there are some glitchy effects happening on the screen that sometimes make your audience think that your screen is kind of broken. But it's a guilty pleasure of mine bringing that energy to a room. It's not always useful, but when the time is right, I love to use them.
I love that. I'm a sucker these days for the gradients. I'm not gonna lie to you; those are my go-to choice these days at our church.
You should keep your eye open on our.
Okay, well,
sure.
You heard it here. For all of our listeners, you heard it here first. New releases with some great. Yes,
I love it.
I love that. I mean, this has been awesome. This has been an amazing conversation with you. I love hearing your heart for it. Where can people follow you? Where can they find out more?
Well, people can find more at churchmotiongraphics.com and And for sure, it's our main thing. And on Ministry Brands and Amplify, they could take a look at those websites. And for myself, I am on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, maybe not as prolific as in the past, but you can find me on Twitter at Jaime MH. So it's JAIME MH.
We can put it in the show notes. We can.
So before I lose the spelling bee. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram.
Very cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I would encourage, and you know, for most of our people who were listening to this today, they are in fact listening. And so if you want to see those visuals and you want to get a taste of that, definitely check out those websites, because, you know, you get to see all of the hard work and amazing work that Jaime and the team are doing to make happen there. And they really, truly will make a big difference in your worship services. So thank you, Jaime, for being a part of this today. And Jess, as always, thank you for joining us today. I hope for everyone who's listening that this conversation has sparked some fresh ideas in you and maybe gave you a renewed vision for how media can elevate and not distract, but really just elevate and improve the worship environments that you're in each week. I love the reminder that Jaime gave us that, you know, it's not about decoration or anything like that, but really gives you an opportunity to create an environment that invites people to worship and amplifies the message that you're trying to do. So, hey, if this message or this episode has encouraged you, we would love if you just would consider sharing it with a friend that's serving in ministry, or even leaving a review. That helps us as we're equipping leaders just like you around the world. And again, hit that follow, hit that subscribe button. It means the world to us. But until next time, keep leading well, and we'll see you right back here next week on Church Leadership Lab.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.